LOSRPO TCC joint meeting for November 21st, 2024. Is welcome and introduction, so you want to do yours?
Yeah, let's start over here, if we don't mind, with Mr. Williams.
Steve Williams, NCDOT Division 14.
Hannah Smith, NCDOT Division 13. Asha Riddle, Land and Sky Regional Council.
William Hines, Buncombe County. Jeff Adams, Transylvania County.
Matt Weckel, Madison County.
Kevin Inslee, Hayward County.
Vicky Eason, Land and Sky RPO.
Tristan Winkler, French Broad River MPO.
Hannah Bagley, French Broad River MPO.
Stacey Empire, French Broad River MPO.
Wanda Payne, NCDOT Division 14.
And Daniel Sellers, NCDOT Transportation Planning Division.
All right, first, I want to run through the TCC members that we have online, if you guys can speak up. City of Brevard.
Mac Morrow, City of Brevard.
Aaron.
Yep, Aaron Bland, City of Brevard.
Thank you, Matt. Transylvania County, Darby.
Darby Terrell, Transylvania County.
Larry Chapman, Transylvania County.
Thank you, Larry. And Town of Marshall.
Forrest Gillum, Town of Marshall.
And Haywood County, Jody.
Jody Ferguson.
All right, now I'm just going to run through the rest of the folks that we have online here. And they keep joining. Good morning, Mayor Abby. That's Mayor Abby from Hot Springs joining. Cody Weddle.
Cody Weddle, Engineer, NCDOT.
Get on this call.
Okay. Liz McKee.
Okay. All right. All right.
Erica Anderson.
Hi, all. Erica Anderson, Land and Sky Regional Council.
Thank you, Erica. Devin Sparks.
Devin Sparks, NCDOT Division 13, Corridor Development Engineer.
Excellent. I think we have everybody now.
Okay, Ethics Awareness and Conflict of Interest Reminder. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved.
Now, Madam Chair, Darby, if you would approve the agenda and minutes from our August TCC meeting.
Yes. Can I get a motion for approval of the last minutes and for the current agenda?
This is Aaron. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. This is Matt.
Matt, this is for the TCC. Hang on just a second. We'll get you
Oh,
the
okay.
CA.
This is Forrest. I'll second it.
Thank you, Forrest. And I'll do the TCC. Hang on. TCC roll call is Buncombe County.
Approve.
Haywood County.
Approve.
Pennsylvania County.
Approve.
Oh.
Town of Marshall.
Approve.
And City of Brevard.
Approve.
Thank you.
Okay. So you need to approve the minutes of the August 15, 2024 meeting. And get in the agenda, as long as there's no modifications. So can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Haywood County.
Here.
Transylvania County. Larry.
Excuse me, approved.
Thank you. Town Marshall. I'm sorry.
Madison County approved,
Madison
yes.
County. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Madison County approved, yes.
City of Brevard, Matt.
Approved.
All these roll calls. All right, let's move on, sir.
So it's on Here none, we'll move on to the land sky business items. So A is the meeting schedule.
Yep, the link to that was sent out with the agenda. It's also available on the RPO website. Meetings are set up, it'll be the same day, the second Thursday at 10 a.m. for the TCC, the third Thursday at 11:30 for the TAC. All meetings will be held here at Land of Sky and virtually, so those wanting to attend virtually. And, got a plan to have another one of the exciting joint meetings in November. But as always, if there is no pressing RPO business that we must meet for, we contact leadership and essentially skip a meeting cycle as long as all of our deadlines and commitments can be met. That is, no motion required, there's strictly information.
Okay. And the next is the division needs one of input points.
Yep. All right, folks, normally we have a PowerPoint for this, but I think we've all been through it enough. I'm just gonna work off of the, agenda here. As we all know, spot office, the divisions, NTOs and RPOs are in the process of wrapping up prioritization 7.0, spot 7.0, P 7.0, however you'd like to call it. The quantitative scores for all the projects were released in May. In August, we wrapped up our regional inputs here, and the RPO held meetings with folks prior to Helene to decide what our priorities were for the division needs. Due to Helene, we canceled our October meeting, so we never approved our draft list. However, the draft list was posted on the RPO website. It is advertised. There's been a public comment period open since October 27th, and that wrapped up yesterday. And as of the drafting of this agenda and this morning, there have been no public comments on our list. The list is posted on the RPO website, and just to quickly run through how things work with prioritization. The prioritization process is mandated by the Strategic Transportation Investment Law of 2013. Funding is divided into 3 tiers statewide, which is 40% of the funding. That's a competition across the state, with the exception of Transfer County folks who have no statewide projects down there. The quantitative scores assigned to each project is 100% of the score. RPOs nor divisions have any input on those projects. Those projects encompass our interstate, and in Haywood County, that's US 23. Regional impact, which we assigned our points in August, is 30%, and the regional competition split between 7 regions, which are made up of 2 NCDOT divisions. Pot of money is, while the whole pot is 30%, each region's pot is dictated by population, and Region G, Division 13 and 14, is the second lowest population in the state. We state smallest population. That is 70 points is your quantitative score, and the RPO has 15% input, so 100 RPO local input points equals 15 points, and 100 division input points equals the other 15 points. And that encompasses our US and NC highways, as well as any statewide projects that we choose to have. And finally, division needs, which is what we're voting on today, is the remaining 30% that is divided equally across our 14 divisions in the state. The quantitative score is 50% of the total score. 25% or 25 points is made up by 100 RPO local input points, and the remaining 25% is made up with the division engineers 100 local input points to get 55. And that pot, the roads are the facilities that compete are secondary roads, public transit, standalone bike paths, and any statewide mobility or regional impact projects that we choose to cascade. Okay, the list was shared online. I can try to get that. If I can get it pop up. Easier when you have more than one screen, folks. It's going to take us there. Nope. There we go. All right. Can you see that yet? There we go. Here's the list. The paragraph at the top, which you have never seen before, is basically a caveat for anybody that went there in the public to say we did not meet about this draft list, but still went through the process to establish the list. Hayward County, US 276, Code Creek Road intersection improvement. We cascaded that. Madison County, 2570, intersection 213. We're cascading that intersection project for regional division needs from regional impact. 2570 North Main Street to Gross Creek, multi-intersection improvement. We cascaded that project. And 2570 at Gross Creek, intersection improvement. That's been cascaded. Transylvania County, US 64-276 at Cooster Road intersection improvement. Also cascaded. And then Transylvania County went with a number of non-highway projects given the availability of funding. They have a Greenway project from US 64 to the high school. They have a Greenway project. This is actually a crossing, a Greenway crossing from one side of US 64 to the other side of US 64. They have sidewalk at that same crossing location on 64 on Boston Highway. A Greenway project from Mills Ave to Hillsview Circle up by the Head Start. And then a highway project, Crab Creek Road intersection at Everett Farm intersection improvement project. And then a transit project on NC 280 near Turkey Pen, construct a roundabout. Parking lot. And then a highway project at US 64 South Broadman Highway, Caldwell intersection improvement project south of Blue Park. That makes up the 1,200 local input points that Landstar has at the division needs. We will need to get both TCC to approve and TAC to approve this list if there's no comments.
Ultimately, we're approving projects that we probably will never see money for, though, right?
You are correct, and let me just get back to the other agenda, and I will further clarify what we have in this here. Down at the bottom of this list is Division 13, the available funding is negative $133 million. And Division 14, the available funding is negative 35. So yes, there is no funding. We're going through the motions to put some priorities up there in the event of a windfall. Yep, I need to get, Darby, I need a, TCC. Motion, second, approval.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the division needs list?
Forrest, I make that motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second from Steve Williams.
Larry Chapman, Transylvania County.
Hang on my, all right, roll call, Buncombe County.
Approved.
Hayward County. Jody.
Approve.
Transylvania County.
Approve.
Anna Marshall.
Approve.
Vard.
Approve.
Division 13. Approved. Division 14.
Approved.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion from the AC to approve the division's needs local input points. A motion for that.
Matt, Larry, anyone?
I was letting somebody else have a chance here, but I'll do it, that's fine, I'll say, so moved.
Thank you.
Is there a
Larry?
Yeah,
Need a
second, second, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
approved, yeah,
Either one.
whatever.
Got you, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Madison County,
Aye.
Haywood County. Aye. City Brevard,
Aye.
Pennsylvania County.
Aye.
Thank you.
Been so excited to spend money I didn't have.
I understand.
Okay, we'll move on to resolution for support of the project. Regional planning grant.
Yes, we do. All right. Sorry, guys, my Zoom keeps messing me up. There we go. I can't get to my agenda on here for some reason.
I like your it's still sharing.
Yeah, no, it's still sharing, but anyway, folks may remember, about a year or so ago, we did a letter of support for Division 13 to apply for a Protect funding grant for some, bridges and culverts to be replaced and improved for better resiliency in North Lumpkin, Barnesville area, and Madison County. What we're applying for today, or recommended we apply for today, trying to get support for, is a Protect Regional Planning Grant application. The MPO will be applying with coordination with the RPOs to cover our entire 5 counties. And what Protect is from NCDOT is promoting resilient operations and for transformative, efficient, and cost-saving transportation projects for Protect discretionary grant program. It's a competitive grant program created by the bipartisan infrastructure law to plan for and strengthen surface transportation to be more resilient to natural hazards, including climate change, sea level rise, flooding, extreme weather events, and other natural disasters. Bipartisan infrastructure law provides over $1.4 billion over 5 years through this program to fund projects that address the climate crisis by funding the resilience of surface transportation systems, including highways, public transit, ports, and intercity passenger rail. What we want to apply for is a regional resiliency improvement plan, or a RIP. NCDOT completed a statewide resiliency improvement plan, but that plan was strictly focused on like interstate and highways. It did not cover secondary, private, or municipal facilities. So what this plan would cover is our 5 counties, and it would dive deeper in. We would look at our secondary roads, our private road connections, and our municipal roads. It would include assessment of vulnerability of transportation assets, study the potential severity of impact of weather events to accessibility, which I think we should all experience that.
It should be pretty easy to determine right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Prioritize resiliency projects, consideration of policy and implement resilience improvements, community engagement education, and it would include facilities, not like I said, not facilities with statewide forms, secondary, municipal assets, private assets. The way the program works is for these resiliency plans, it's 100% funded, there's no local match, and the application is due February 24th. So what the NOFO asks for is letter of support, so we need to do another awkward roll call for TCC recommendation and a TAC approval of the letter of support to apply for this regional resiliency. Any questions? Discussion?
I don't know if the state one covered NC routes or if the MPO, RPO one will, but that's
One way or the other, we'll get them.
middle of the
Yeah.
pack, so
Yeah.
curious about that.
Yeah.
But either way,
Yeah.
it doesn't affect the vote today.
And we had a presentation from Natasha on the resiliency statewide plan a number of months ago. I think it was January of last year. Anyway, Darby, if there's no more questions, we have 3 minutes to wrap up our business.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the joint application for the Protect Regional Planning Grant?
This is Aaron. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Mr.
Forrest.
Williams.
Williams, yes, thank you. All right, I'll do the roll call. Buncombe County,
Approved.
Haywood County,
Approve.
Addison County, Transylvania County,
Approve.
City of Brevard,
Approve.
Town of Marshall,
Approve.
Division 13, Division 14.
Approved.
Okay, we'll move on to the AC, so resolution of support for the Fed Regional Planning Grant application. I have a motion for that.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Mac.
Haywood County,
Aye.
Addison County,
Aye.
Transylvania County,
Approved.
City of Brevard.
Aye.
At this point, folks, we have concluded the RPO business, and we will be moving into, does anybody have to change their login or switch meetings, or we just go to the RPO?
We're good to go. We can take a quick break for, I believe, barbecue chicken.
Yep.
This is the first time, folks, we've been able to have food at these meetings in over a decade and not get in trouble with federal highways. No federal funds are being used. Please,
What funds are being used?
the what?
What funds are being used?
Local funds.
Just
Just
for
local.
fun.
We gave Tristan a big raise earlier in the year, and I think it's all confidence in Tristan, so.
Thank you, folks.
Like, say, we'll move on.
Great meeting.
A little bit. What's that? Yeah, we did pretty well. Yeah, we're a little bit surprised. They got everything more than we thought they would. You know, considering, we just went through a tax reval and $300 for one campaign. Just simply because, I mean, there was nothing to do. I mean, I was tied up, I was in the other. Couldn't get a man, couldn't do anything.
We put signs out.
Good afternoon, Tristan and y'all.
Jackson County wasn't bad at all. We were mad. We had down to 5 and we were 4 feet of that. And the cat, it was 3, I'm not a surveyor, so I don't know. That's good, at least it's certificate.
Well, see, I didn't realize that. I kind of looked at the news, I was going to see
Yeah, people were complaining, we were just busy. But, yeah, and, you know, in WS, I just knew where, it said there was 314,000 gallons per second, one down, and in the vision, it was 5. So it's
it's a narrow basement.
340.
More water gets through there. That right, the source of it.
Yeah, it would be 276.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And then 215. Yeah, 215, and then really, you know, Boston, it's really, it's flooding. Yeah, so the south facing slope. And I don't know why. I know that all time.
Welcome, everybody. It's good to have this many people in the room. I guess this really does bring people out. So that's a good thing. I know that,
Yes, I'm online.
Perfect. So the first thing is that we'll need an approval of the agenda. That's correct.
We can jump to that.
Oh, well, let's do it. Let's start with the approval of the agenda first. Do we have to do both?
Let's go ahead and jump that up and do agenda and consent agenda.
Okay. Is that okay with us? I was rude. Somebody put it at the top. We will. Sorry, that's the next one. Scratch that. Okay. As we were.
Continue. All right. So
as we were.
We'll jump into updates.
Yes, actually, I can do that.
The big statement.
Sorry. I'll read slow so people can continue to read. So, in accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflict of interest. Does any board member have any non-conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today? So, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved. Do you have any? Okay. Next update.
Okay, we'll turn it over to, starting with the NCDOT divisions. We know that there's been a whole lot of impacts, especially to the transportation network, a lot of work that's going on with NCDOT. So to start with, I mean, I think, I'll just say that I think everyone's very grateful for all the work that NCDOT has been doing and going through. In all honesty, at least in my personal experience, during the storm, it was hard to tell just how big the impacts really were. But hearing the little bit of news that we were able to get that there was no way out through our major corridors, to me was one of the first indicators of holy smokes. This is something different. And so I think we've all heard the news. We've been sending out updates on all the work that's going on. So to hear a little bit more, we've asked division staff to give us a little more of a lengthy update than usual, and provide that for the MPO and RPO. So we can start with Division 13, if that works for you, Hannah.
Yeah, so I'll be covering the Division 13 update. I have a PDF of the PowerPoint. I've been having technical difficulties pretty much all morning, but we're going to just roll with it. And it's ready to share via email after already, so look at that. Yeah, I don't know that there's a, there we go. Okay, great. So yeah, you just go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to kick off with just some aftermath information about the storm. Keep going. These are some photos you guys have probably seen. I know some of these are repeated from another presentation that was made here. Just some photos. This one on the left is downtown Marshall, and then on the right, this is Fairview Road taken from I-40, looking south. Okay. And then these are some photos of Swananoa River Road in Asheville. The first one on the top left is right there at Glendale, looking back towards Biltmore Ave. And then the other two, the one on the bottom left and the one on the right, are Swananoa River Road between basically the Manna Food Bank or Fairview Road to Azalea Road. As far as the entire corridor, this area was where we saw, or that stretch is where we saw the most significant damage to that corridor. And we'll talk about Swananoa River Road towards the end of the presentation, but go to the next slide. There is a tool online that the National, somebody help me, Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is produced, and they collected imagery from September 27th to October 6th. So you can see both pre and post event imagery from the hurricane, and there's a bookmark on the right side where you can kind of pan to different affected areas. That link's not going to work in a PDF, but if you Google it, I'm sure you can find it. You can go to the next slide, and this is sort of an example of what you'll see. Image on the left is pre-storm, image on the right is post, and this is that same area of Swananoa River Road, starting at Fairview Road, heading east out towards US 70. Okay, next slide. All right, let's talk about our initial response. Keep going. And this is going to be pretty similar for all of the divisions that were affected by the storm. Pre-storm, we really started gathering materials, stockpiling materials, getting emergency contracts underway, and identifying transfer crews from other divisions to come in and help. During the storm, we were trying to keep as many roads open as possible. We were barricading those flooded areas and mobilizing cut and shove as soon as possible to get debris out of the road. As far as wind speed and safety, I know it's probably been mentioned before. I think DOT policy is if there is wind speed 35 miles an hour or greater, folks don't need to be out in the storm or in those conditions with chainsaws cutting down trees. So we had those safety measures in place, but as soon as weather permitted, we were mobilizing cut and shove crews. Post-storm, working to restore connectivity through emergency work where we could and as quickly as we could. Continued the flood monitoring for several days until the waters receded. Definitely we're working with local emergency management, and those cut and shove operations continued. I think in Division 13, we had about 11,000 debris locations that we were shoving debris out of the roads. And then pretty immediately, within the first few days, we began damage assessments. This was technicians in the field collecting photos and marking spots where there was damage. And that includes roadway, bridges, culverts, etc. And it was really all hands on deck situation and kind of remains that way, but especially the first couple of weeks. Okay, next slide. So just as far as statewide data, we do have over 8,500 confirmed damage sites. Below that, you can see the split per division. Division 11 has about 3,400 sites, Division 13 about 3,900, and Division 14 about 1,400. And then you can see the breakout of the type of damage, mostly roadway, but also a count of culverts and bridges as well. And then countywide stabilization, about 1,600 locations. I will say the countywide stabilization of the smaller repair areas, I think it's, I don't know if it's less than $3,000 per site or less than $5,000, but they're essentially the areas that we stabilize relatively quickly, lower cost, and typically within the first 30 days. The field estimate, or the initial field estimate to restore this damaged infrastructure, is nearing $5 billion. I think I heard a presentation for Michael Poe, Division 11 engineer yesterday in Boone, and the estimate Division 11 is around $150 million. For Division 13, we're nearing $3 billion. And I'm not sure about Division 14, but I'm sure Wanda will cover that for you. But essentially, total for all impacted areas, we're looking at about $5 billion worth of damage. Next slide. All right, moving forward. Let's move forward in the presentation. Okay, wanted to touch on debris removal from NCDOT right away. As I mentioned, we had about 11,000 locations in our entire division. We do have a memorandum of agreement with each of the counties, except Madison County is my understanding, for the removal of debris within our right-of-way on primary and secondary roads. So for Madison County, we'll still be handling debris removal. And then we're handling the debris removal also on our interstates. So any driftwood, leaders or hangers on the interstate system, we're still responsible for taking care of that removal. And then here's just kind of a update for the percentage of debris that has been cleaned up per county. Would say that data is a little bit misleading because some of it has just been hauled off just merely for access to damaged sites for repairs and assessments. But you can see we are underway with debris removal. Okay, next slide. As far as initial repairs go, we have been working on both temporary and permanent repairs, and that includes contract crews and multiple NCDOT crews as well. So out of our nearly 3,900 damaged sites, 467 of them have been permanently repaired as of last week, and that includes about 31 bridges. We have installed 13 temporary bridges, and we have 28 more planned in the coming weeks, as well as 50 temporary pipes have been installed to restore access. As far as staff and resources, we have just over 200 local Division 13 staff working, and that's field personnel. There's more Division 13 staff, engineering staff working on the storm as well, but that's folks in the field physically making repairs, as well as 149 maintenance staff from other divisions outside of Division 13. And then I'm sure folks have heard that Kentucky DOT has provided some folks to help with repairs also. And my understanding in Division 13, those crews have primarily been helping in Buncombe County. And then we also have 62 contractor crews division-wide assisting with repairs as well. Okay? Permanent repairs, we are still working through contract methods for other permanent repairs. Those are being evaluated currently. We do have about 39 bridge replacements that we have sent centrally to the alternative delivery unit to kick off the emergency express design build process. So just in an effort to get those the design for this bridge is underway quickly. We have 4 progressive design build projects that we're currently kicking off, that are federal highway major projects, which is just a term for FHWA that means $500 million or more. One of them is in Rutherford County. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the damage in Chimney Rock, Bat Cave area. And then the other 3 are actually in Yancey County. Let's see. We have a plethora of other roadway and structure repairs that are going to require design. And we're initially proposing for those to be the traditional bid build delivery. And then we've got NCDOT forces that are making permanent repairs that we won't have to do design or revisit. They'll be permanent. We are working through still with FEMA and FHWA on the rules for reimbursement. Typically, our repairs are in kind or to our current standards, but there may be some opportunities for resiliency, which is really considered betterments in this type of effort. And so we'll be determining those on a case-by-case basis. Okay, next slide. Okay, I did want to show some images from Swananoa River Road on the section between Biltmore Ave and South Tunnel. So we are currently making repairs along the entire corridor from Biltmore Ave all the way to US 70. And those repairs are in kind. So we're restoring the road currently to the previous typical section alignment and elevation. Most of the work on the section between Biltmore Ave and South Tunnel is intermittent roadway repairs, meaning there are fewer sections where the entire road was washed away. Primarily working on embankment stabilization. There are some areas where the subgrade is having to be reconstructed, and then replacing the pavement in those areas. Mostly, a lot of the roadway repairs have been made. My understanding is mostly utility work that's continuing, and then we need to do guardrail replacement as well. It's my understanding that our intentions are to wait to do the guardrail installation until some of the river cleanup has finished, because we need access to the river, and we don't want the guardrail damaged with debris and stuff being removed from the river. Okay, next slide. Then the section of Swananoa River Road from South Tunnel out to Tunnel, there is a lot of ongoing work to reestablish utilities, and that's primarily power and gas. And again, I mentioned earlier, most of the significant damage to this corridor is between the Manna Food Bank and Azalea Avenue. So this is an aerial of that section. There were, in that section, basically the subgrade had to be rebuilt, but we had significant washout in that stretch. So currently the subgrade has been built back to within a foot of the final grade. So been mostly grading operations and utility work in that stretch for the past 6 weeks or so. But paving and guardrail installation will follow, and I don't really have, we don't really have an anticipated date yet for reopening. I think it's going to really depend on the work that Duke is doing out there, but they're actively working towards reopening that road. Next slide. These are just some resources I wanted to provide. I know that MPO and RPOs have been getting those updates from Central NCDOT. I believe that those are going to be continuing to come. At least on a weekly basis. We might move away from that at some point in the future. And to my knowledge, the only really information that's available as far as data for public consumption is this dashboard on drive.nc.gov that kind of shows the summary of the roads that are being reopened. And a link to that, I think, was in the last update, central update. So it's kind of handy. You can filter for certain areas. And then we'll, of course, be continuing with our regular updates on the standard basis. I'm sure Helene updates will become a regular part of that as well. So I think that was my last slide, but I'm happy to take any questions anybody has.
You guys have been doing phenomenal work. I can't even imagine what your still with all the data. Thank you. Division.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a presentation. It's going to shortly be up there.
Thanks, Tim.
So a lot of it, just like Hannah, there may be a slide or two that's kind of redundant, but these are three slides or locations that are in the western part of Division 14. We really saw in Division 14 there was kind of that dividing line, and that dividing line is really on that Jackson-Haywood County line, really. So most everything from, Haywood County west, there was some damage, as you can see, but I would call it like atypical of a storm that we typically have when things are coming through. And then you went into Haywood County and things changed drastically from that point east. With that, it actually helped us from a response standpoint because we were able to not only tap into other resources across the state, but we were able to shift internal resources from the division itself. And so basically we pushed basically all of our CMEs and a number of our county crews went into the eastern part of the division, and we only left like a skeleton crew to kind of take care of their normal maintenance. So that really helped us from a response standpoint to be able to get out there ahead of it. But these are NC 106 is the one on the left, I believe. Yes. So that's NC 106 is under contract. Interesting about that one is that we looked at the slide, thought it was pretty typical, went out there, we were going to do some soil mills, and the contractor, as they started putting the soil mills under the road, hit a void, and we were like, that's not good. So we had to back up, and start over with that repair. Then we had US 64, this is a picture of US 64 in Highlands, and then Big Ridge Road, which is in Jackson County. Then these are typical of the back caves area. Like I said, it's totally changed when you got into Haywood County and then into Polk and Henderson County, is where the majority of the devastation. And it looks like, and y'all have seen this, it really was just kind of that curvature of, in that back cave area, and then it kind of went into the Buncombe and all of that. So, you saw from the numbers earlier, Division 13 is kind of got the majority of the damage. Like Hannah said, our numbers are about, a little over $1 billion, and $1 billion of that is Haywood County with I-40, and then the rest of it, just under, that. So not that they're not insignificant, but a lot of our numbers is in that one location. This is back cave. This bridge since has been reopened, and we're going to have a separate contract that's going to actually replace that bridge. We're going to have traditional contract design bid build on US 64 to replace the damaged sections on that. 74A to the left, we're going to do the CMGC. And then Division 13 is going to pick up to the right side with the progressive design build contract. Like Hannah was saying, this is the tool that we've used, and there's a link there that if you want to use it. It's a neat slider to be able to just kind of gauge what's out there in areas that you may or may not have been able to see. This is an overview shot of all three divisions and some of the numbers. I'll kind of get through this, but just, highlighting, we had over the three divisions total, over 2,000 DOT employees, 1,400 are within the western part of the state, and then the rest of them, were transfer crews, and that then, like I said before, that was, a huge recovery effort. And they're still continuing to come and assist us, at least through the end of the year, probably into the next year. The one thing that's not mentioned on here, of course, you might know, is the Army actually came out and assisted us in areas too, so that was a huge help for us as well. These are some of the closures, some of the remaining closures that you see, shows like one in Cherokee County and some in Haywood County. Seems a little bit high. A lot of those closures are due to tractor trailers being in the wrong place, and so we put a road closure in the TIM system to try to detour some of those tractor trailers on being roads that they should not be on. Some of the bridge numbers that we have, Haywood County had 14, 17 in Henderson, and then 5 in Transylvania County. I was sitting here looking at right now, our contract count is 93, and that was from the beginning of the storm. Some of those contracts have since closed as we've transitioned from that emergency response, in that first 72-hour kind of deal to an IDIQ, and now we're even transitioning into a more permanent fix contracting mechanism. This is just a view of one of the many pictures of I-40. This kind of damage from, going all the way to the center median, one lane gone, 2 lanes gone, that's pretty much typical for the 4.5, almost 5 miles of I-40. This is the most we've ever seen in anything like this as far as the length of damage that was done. And it's almost, I've had questions about what are you going to do, with it. And I mean, fortunately, I-40 is almost kind of like an easier one to fix, if you want to say that, because there's really nowhere to really go. Some of the stuff in Back Cave, the river kind of moved over, and we have issues with what are we going to do with the river, where are we going to put the road back. There's no room here to really do anything with the river, so the river kind of really has to stay where it's at. There will be some movement of it as we go through this. We did start off, there is, in that, this is 9 miles, there's a couple of places beyond the double tunnels, which are at 4.5 mile marker, that are damaged, but there was 11 initial places that are damaged, and of those, there were 4 that was the most critical that we needed to stabilize with Philanel so that we could save what we had left of the westbound lane. So we entered into contract with Wright Brothers. They've stabilized those, or working to stabilize those. And we've added a couple of places more to be able to open up traffic. So right now, Wright Brothers is looking to have that project completed in December, and we'll be able to open up traffic to one-way each direction. We'll have a barrier. Tennessee has a little 9-inch by 9-inch square curb that they've implemented on their lane closures, and we're going to follow suit and have that between and use that. It had we went back and forth, really. There's some advantages to that from an emergency response, so we're going to do that as well. We're also going to have a tow contract, which, we've had 4 years of experience with a tow contract on I-26, and it's worked really well. So we're going to have a tow contract in the board. One tow will be actually in Tennessee, and the other truck will be staged at the 7-mile marker. So that will assist us to be able to get traffic out of there as quick as possible. Speed limit will be reduced. There won't be any oversized, overweight trucks going through here. We'll have a law enforcement staged on either end of it to ensure that oversized, overweight is not going to go through there. We do have Ames under contract for the permanent fix, and RKK is the designer on that. We have HDR is going to be the firm on the US 74A back case, and then we'll be choosing, actually, they're probably discussing it right now, who the contractor is going to be for those repairs in that case. And here is a picture of the repairs that have been under contract that Wright Brothers has been doing with the soil mill to stabilize this lane. In this recovery effort, each of the divisions has been working very hard to, individually we were working very hard, and so, but we saw early on that we needed to tackle this storm as western, whole western North Carolina. So this is our statement, our, restore and rebuild western North Carolina transportation infrastructure efficiently, effectively, and equitably while maximizing federal reimbursement. And that's going to be a key and very important with this storm. I mean, if you add up all the numbers, we're looking at over $5 billion. I think now estimates are getting up to $7 billion. Our central office is estimating that we're probably looking at as a state of $1.7 billion is going to be our share of this storm. So maximizing that federal reimbursement is going to be key for us to be able to recover from this. In that, we kind of set internal targets. So at the beginning of the storm, one of our first targets was to restore limited access, which we consider to be one lane by Thanksgiving. I can say we checked that box. We had the last one restored last week, but in this storm, I think my perspective, that one lane access, that's always been kind of the lowest level that we've always been like, okay, that's our target. But for this storm early on, I think our target was lowered to like, can we get a footpath? Do they? Then it was like, can they get ATV access? And then we're like, okay, we're good. And so then it became the one lane. So, but then we're moving into now kind of, we want to try to get 80% of the damage sites addressed within 6 months. And that can be temporary or permanent repairs, either complete, depending on what we're doing, and then 90% within a year. And then hopefully we'll get 100% of them addressed within that 2 years. Now, knowing that there's going to be outliers in your more major contracts that will not be addressed within that 2 years, or will go beyond that 2 years. Part of this structure, and this is a very busy diagram, but it basically is in the, I forget what gray boxes, I guess that kind of looks grayish to me in this picture. That's your technical expert. And it was just a way for us as a Western North Carolina, 3 different divisions, to identify who is going to be our subject matter expert, so we would know where to go if we had an issue. And so it was just really formalizing the process that each one of us was doing so that we could all be meeting. Obviously, we have meetings on a day. At the beginning, it was almost like on a daily basis. It's kind of waned a little bit, not too much, but we are having a lot of meetings, and just to make sure that we're all doing the same thing and to go back to that maximizing our federal reimbursement. So that is an update. Is there any questions?
I just want to make a comment on it. Y'all did a great job. I haven't heard any complaints about the DOT getting things done. I know you were talking about getting other crews, and I was out on Saturday after the storm, and I ran into a crew, and they were from Graham County working. Yeah. And so, but I appreciate you getting those guys. I mean, this was the next day, and there was actually a creek that the culvert had stopped up, and it was going across the road. Yeah. And so they got that out of the way. And then you guys got contract crews out there to, we had a landslide on Little East Fork, and you had those guys. You just see that landslide. In fact, I got pictures of it. It's just, can't believe that could happen. And anyway, and the owner next to it, I talked to him, and he couldn't believe it either, but to get all that out of the road in the amount of time you did was just remarkable. And along the lines of the I-40, just something I noted was, you know, you got those huge concrete barriers, okay? They fell into the river, and so when you look down where those, you know, they're gone, because the river washed those concrete barriers somewhere. So that was how destructive that was. But just thank you guys, and it's just, you know, everybody raves about what y'all have done, so thank you.
I want to piggyback off of Kevin. Pictures do not do it justice at all. We were there, I was fortunate to be with us there. Those boulders are the size of houses, and they look very small in pictures.
Yeah.
The video is incredible. So 2 years not Steve. I will be impressed.
Yeah, well,
I am impressed with everything you're doing, so I have no doubt it's going for 2 years, but it's just amazing.
Right, and I mean, yes, it has been amazing, you know, all 3 divisions. I mean, the work that has been accomplished in, you know, 7 weeks, you know, it's been phenomenal.
And I'll say this.
Anything said about NCDOT, I've heard, we're full of other stuff, but I've not heard anything.
And I'm told, you know, the governor was there, and both the senators, U.S. senators were there, and I told all 3 of them, I said, we don't want partisanship at this time. We need help. And I want you guys to work together to get this done, you know, to get us some funding. And because I-40 has got to get open, because it's a huge part of our economy in Western North Carolina, especially in Haywood County, but I know even in Asheville. And we just got to get that open, as well as I-26. I kind of hammered on that too. So anybody that was federal, FEMA, I put the word out, you know, work together, get this fixed. So probably fall on deaf ears, but that's what I do.
I've got one question. So the debris removal, you know, DOT's getting that up. But if you've got residents that can't put it in the right of way, either because they got a pie-shaped lot, a fence, or a big ditch that could cause another problem if it ain't picked up quickly, can they come in the driveway and get it? How is they gonna do that?
So most of the counties have entered into MOAs, and they're handling it, so it is the county's the county's responsibility. Now, with that being said, I think Transylvania County and Transylvania County, out of the affected areas that y'all cover, that's one that has not entered into the MOA that we're actually picking up. But we are having a call with them next week, with our 4 counties next week, to kind of discuss that and make sure, because we have seen some issues, and we are concerned that the county, it is so much debris that we might need to assist the counties because it is a lot of stuff for one entity to have to handle.
Janet has a question online.
Thank you. Wanda, you may have addressed this already, so I apologize if you did, but I was very curious about what's going to happen with the debris that's in the Pigeon, especially in the Whitewater section, that's the commercial section, because I was out there probably a month ago, and there's no more white water because it's so filled in. All of those rafting companies will become tubing companies if the debris is not taken out of the river. So I was just wondering what's going to happen.
No, I was just going to say, we have, or at least I have, when people ask me that, I send them to the regulatory agencies because we do not pick up in the river. And we've not been asked to pick up in the river. And I don't think it's the county's responsibility because the MOA that we have with y'all goes to, you know, on our right of way. So yeah, that's going to be a regulatory question.
Sorry, Janet, that's not.
No. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, just interesting, they were talking about that, you know, the barrier, finding it somewhere. I have a sister who lives in, near Knoxville, Maryville, and she was talking about how the Douglas Lake has been filled in because of everything that came from North Carolina. So have their issues with trying to dredge or whatever they want to do. Surface
People on some of the town Waynesville's barricades
You
that are
probably
still
will.
missing.
Yeah.
And all of the pot from the silver line plastic
Yeah.
is ending up down there, a lot of it ending up down there too.
Any other questions for Wanda?
Wanda, you wanted me to remind you about the managed lanes on I-40 for you.
Oh, yes, I do come bearing good news. So, before the storm, it's probably been, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, if not more ago, we talked about a managed lane study and this board passed letter, or I don't know. But we wrote a letter.
Letter of support.
Letter of support to start that study. The Secretary of Transportation has agreed to pay for that. We had the initial feasibility, but we didn't have that managed lane component of the study. And so the Secretary has agreed to pay for that study. So we are meeting next week, I believe, to kind of kick off that. So that is some bright news, is we will be getting that study done.
And to give Daniel some credit, I think there's a 2 or 3 page memo out there that says, basically, this is an idea worth pursuing.
It took 6 months to write that 2-page memo.
Before we go on, I would like to circle back around since I forgot at the beginning, but I know we have 2 people in the room that won re-election. So congratulations, Jennifer and Kevin. That was a tough one in the middle of all this. So, I don't know who else might have won the election, but I'm glad that you voted. Yes, Matt won. Yeah, if you won. I didn't, yes, sir. Sorry. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. So, I don't know how you continued on. Next is Daniel. It's good to see you in the room.
Yes, I get to come up here occasionally. So the Transportation Planning Division is obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but doesn't have a ground presence in the divisions. So we've had to watch from afar and try to aid as best we can. So instead of my normal structured bullet points, I have somewhat of a tale to weave. So you'll tell me if my transitions are worked after. Where I'm going to start is after 6 months of vacancy, we have filled with the division manager's job. So we now know who we report to again. As you may recall, Jamal used to be our division manager, and our new hire is Alpesh Patel. That name may or may not be familiar to some of you. He comes to us from systems, Cambridge Systematics. So he's not an internal promotion. But when I started work at NCDOT back in 2008, Alpesh was actually one of the first people I knew. He did used to work in the planning division. But that didn't last long because after the 2008 election, Governor Perdue came into office and signed an executive order establishing the spot branch. And Alpesh was one of the 3 people recruited, along with David Wasserman and somebody else to lead it, or hand to lead it. And they effectively created Spot from the ground up. David Wasserman has moved on to the STIF unit. We deal with him quite a bit. Alpesh eventually became the director of the Spot group. And after STI was passed in 2013, we got Spot 3 done in 2014. And it's now, you know, the Spot we love and gets to deal with all the time. So, and after that, about 9 years ago, he left and went to Cambridge Systematics, and now he's returning. So he's a bit of an old hand at the till, but while he was at Cambridge, he was able to get a bit more national exposure, work for some other states, work on a variety of topics. Like but he still was involved in North Carolina, did the statewide freight plan. I think he had a hand, or at least bid on the truck parking study. And one of the things he was working on right before he left was our planning resiliency study to find ways to incorporate resiliency into long-range planning. This is coming to us from the feds. We know, obviously, we're finding more and more ways to incorporate resiliency. But much of resiliency is either on the ground after the fact, it's part of the design process, and we really wanted to know where we could lead a hand in long-range systems planning and what of our products could be changed and updated, where, in fact, and what guidances, we could use to train people and actually get it implemented. And I was on that committee, he was on that committee, and about 2 months ago, I went to a committee meeting and he wasn't there, and some young whippersnapper was leading the meeting. I said, "Hey, where's Alpesh?" And they go, "Oh, we're sorry, he's left Cambridge, took another job." And I went, "Okay." And about 2 weeks later, they say, "Alpesh is going to lead your department." And turns out we were working on rolling out the first beta test of these new planning guidance and get some feedback and, work with our people. And that day we decided to present it, turns out to be Alpesh's first day. And so now, as both the developer and the head of the department, he got to see the product. Well, he didn't actually get to see it because he had to actually go to orientation his first day, so he missed it. So shame on him. But it was a pretty good orientation. We're learning some ins and outs about how we can use resiliency planning better. We've got some feedback. We'll have to do another couple rounds. It's going to be a little iterative before we finalize the guidance. But I was able to talk to Kurt, last name unpronounceable, with hydraulics unit and really touch base with what he and emergency management have been working on. This is, of course, after the storm has hit. And what data they have. And like Hannah said earlier, a lot of the data they have isn't public. And it was kind of frustrating because we want to be able to incorporate it into our planning process, and that involves a lot of public meetings. That involves, how do we digest this? What limits can we, share? What limits can we not share? And my boss and I are still negotiating with them, trying to figure out how we can use more data. But it's, important to our planning process to see how their models are going to work. They do a lot of floodplain modeling. And I learned that the FIMEN website, which has individual flood gauges, you can actually sign up for alerts from the flood gauge if you live near one and you want to know when it's hitting 10 foot above flood levels or whatever. But now that we're kind of at a middle, I'll do what I traditionally do halfway through a speech and volunteer Tristan for more work. So all these models and these floodways, one of the rumors we've been hearing, or one of the things we're concerned about as we develop the next round of transportation models, is the long-term impact the storm's going to have on land use. So if any of your communities are taking up, now or over the next 6 months or a year, we'll obviously be dealing with this for a while, changes to any floodplain development ordinances or regulations, make sure we get informed, send them up to Tristan or Vicky. And we want to make sure our travel demand models reflect the best planning guidance that we have, the best planning guesses we have. And those models have served us a little bit since the storm with all of the road closures and truck restrictions. I've been sitting out those daily tables and clogging your email boxes, but we actually did some model runs to see, we know those cars aren't on those roads anymore, many of those roads being completely impassable. But if they're still going, they're still traveling, where are they diverting to, making sure we can kind of account for it. And I've been working with our statewide modelers to see what the long-term 2-year impact is going to be of I-40 being closed. We've already been contacted by some of the other divisions that they've seen almost doubling of truck traffic on I-77 as trucks can't come through I-26 or I-40 anymore. We want to know, are those going to be coming back up 40 into our region? Are they going to be coming up 26? Are they going to be coming through South Carolina somewhere? And we're trying to get an understanding of that so that we can better anticipate traffic for the next several years. And some of those things is what we've been working on at our level. And to get on to some just maybe not hurricane related news on my branch, we have 2 traffic forecasts that have just cleared my desk. One for 810A, which just got completed. The forecast just got completed. And that was one where when they originally reached out to us 6 months ago, I thought the local contacts they were reaching out to was a bit thin. As I remind y'all every time we do our annual orientation meeting, please respond to these traffic forecast questionnaires if they get sent to your staff. And I thought, I forget the exact extent of that segment of that project that they were studying, but it went right up to the county line, Madison County line, and they had not reached out to anybody in Madison County. So I sent that to the cities and to, but I couldn't find anybody at the county, so I ended up sending it to Councilman Wechtel, and he responded. And I saw that response was incorporated in the final forecast. So it's now documented for all time, and that allowed us to illuminate some new medical center that we didn't know was coming, wasn't already incorporated into our model, 50 beds, as I recall. And so obviously we have a better product for it. And on the flip side, we are just now sending out the questionnaires for a I-4400B interchange, BA. Don't quote me on that. So if you're along the I-26 corridor, do respond if you get in comments. We'll be looking for any changes in development, any new developments, any lost developments. But there you go.
You need to know, I guess it just didn't dawn on me, you need to know if there's a hospital coming to town.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So,
Well, and
There's a
for what it's
hospital
worth, I
coming.
just got word this morning that they got awarded the additional 26
Yeah.
beds that were up.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
So it's gonna be over a 100-bed hospital now.
Yeah. It was 90, I think so, 93 plus 26 now.
yeah, we make guesses as to what our future land use is going to be, but then as the years progress, we have to incorporate real results into those estimates. We're obviously working with a consultant right now to prepare our 2050 projections. So if you're part of the nitty-gritty subcommittee, that meeting first week of December, I believe has a presentation from that consultant. And it's kind of a continuous process. So yeah, but all plans are snapshots in time, so we just have to keep rolling and incorporating more and more as we get it. So I took you on a tail. Hopefully the transitions were smooth. Are there any other questions?
I gotta tell you, I can't even imagine what doing data right now is.
So I took some meetings with our traffic surveys group. My usual joke in orientation is that from the collection of the data to the projection of the data, we cover it all. But the traffic surveys group has actually been moved out of our division as part of a little reorg, and has been moved to traffic safety. And but I met with them to make sure to see if their 2024, because we're an even year location, we collect data in even years in Nashville. If that data had already been finished and it was collected, it has been, it was in the spring. And so then the question is, how distorted will the 26 data be? I think it'll be reasonable to use that data when it comes around, but we're also doing a model update around that time. And so I need to be a year ahead of that if I need to request any extra locations. But yeah, we're gonna have to see how far off we are. I mean, when COVID hit, we wrote lots of footnotes too. So, we've been doing it quite regularly.
Thank you. Any questions for Daniel? Is Suzette on?
Suzette's on, and also we have William Beatty with Federal Highway to oversee the emergency response funding, of which I believe $100 million were made available.
So Tristan, the MPO, actually,
So is that William?
zoning.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
So that's what we give. So it'll be interesting. Updated, we'll just keep it on that list. Okay.
Yep. So Suzette.
You wanted me to start first, lead first, Tristan, or how did you want to do it? I couldn't hear what was going on.
Yeah, sure, yeah, if you could lead off and then we can, go to Will.
Okay, no problem. Hi, everyone. I'll go ahead and give you guys some, national updates for federal highways. I know you've, had an opportunity to review the, updates document that I sent that's within your agenda packet. So the first 6 items in there are about awards that the US DOT has given to lots of different agencies. So, you know, there are a lot of awards, lots of millions of dollars that have been awarded. So if you're feeling kind of jealous, then, you know, just go ahead and apply. Besides that, there's some other ones that are out there that, you know, if you're eligible, you should definitely not miss out on this opportunity. So I'll go with the Protect grant. I know that's it's on your agenda to talk about, so I don't know exactly the detail, but I'll speak specifically about nationally about the Protect grant. So there is a deadline to apply, which is February 24th. And the objective for the Protect grant is to plan for and strengthen service transportation to be more resilient to natural hazards like climate change, sea level rise, flooding, and other extreme weather events and other natural disasters. For this grant, there are 4 different categories that you can apply for, which is like planning grants, resilience improvement grants, community resilience, and evacuation route grants, and then there's a coastal one. NPOs, local government, states are all eligible to apply. If it's a planning grant, then it is covered 100% federally. Outside of that, it's 80-20, but that match can be reduced. So let's say, I believe Nastasia Young spoke about this maybe a meeting or 2 ago. But if the state has a resiliency improvement plan and the particular project you're interested in is in that plan, then you can reduce the cost share by 7%. And also if the NPO updates their MTP and incorporates the resiliency plan, which can be done by reference, then that's like 3% reduction in that share. So definitely consider that as you think of ways to improve resiliency in your area. Side of that, there are a couple other deadlines that for grants I've spoken about. There's the low carbon transition materials program that grant deadline is November 25th. That's the one about using low cost transition materials in your projects, so that those in replacing them for your construction projects, and that can be 100% federal funded. And then there's also the National Scenic Byway Program. That grant, that deadline is December 16th. And then as you go further down, you'll see that there are publications and webinars that have either come up or are coming up. I do want to highlight a couple of them. There's publication on integrating natural hazard resilience into your transportation planning process. That's definitely one to consider reviewing. And then there's also some National Corporate Highway Research Program research. So a couple of them are flood forecasting for transportation resilience, and then incorporating resilience into your transportation networks. So those are all the updates that I have for you nationwide. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Perfect. Are there any questions for Suzette? Thank you so much, Suzette. I believe it's
Thank
Will.
you.
Will, are you
Don't know
still
if you
with
can see
us?
me or not. Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
So, we're gonna start off, they don't let me out to speak in public much, so I have a slide deck I use when I meet internally with the DOT. And somebody pointed out to me that this is a public meeting and I can't do it without showing them to the lawyers. But I did grab a slide deck DOT has and pulled the slides out that are relevant. I can share to PDF or I can just talk. It's up to you.
I like to see things, so maybe a PDF.
Okay. Let's figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have to give me permission to share.
Don't worry, it's just between us.
Like I say, they don't let me out much in the public. So anyway, well, oh, there we are. You gave me permission. So there's some slides I borrowed off our website. That is not the one I wanted to bring up. Let's do this the easy way. There you go. Have to give you disclaimers, except for any statute, regulation, society, context.
Well, we see your email. I think it's showing the wrong monitor. Or
you had it up just a second ago.
There you go. Right. All right.
No, we're still seeing emails. There we go. All right. Thank you.
I don't mind you seeing my email. Everything's foilable. So, except for any statute or regulation cited, nothing in this document is intended to provide you information regarding extent and requirements under law or agency policy. I have to say that, sorry. All the images are from FHWA, and the U.S. government does not, and I have no idea why this is in here, endorse products by manufacturers. So anyway, so Title 23, 23 USC is our law that oversees all of the highway, and Section 125 is specific to the Emergency Relief Program. The Emergency Relief Program is funded at about $100 million per year of the Highway Trust Fund. It is supplemented from the general fund. In recent years, the needs have far outstripped the availability of funds, and so periodically Congress does a special appropriation, I think that's the right word, for this. Giving an idea of perspective, I know the costs are actually higher. It gets updated periodically, but when the last call for service was done about a month ago, we identified a need, federal share about 2.5 billion for this storm. Like I say, I know that's gone up since then. Don't anybody jump at me. That was about 30%, 37% of the national need, to give you an idea of the scale of the storm. That's all 50 states plus Puerto Rico and DC. So it's 52 entities. Up until 2013, the cap was 100 million for any state for any specific event that was removed with the MAP 21, and like I said, 2013, and now it is mainly funded through a special appropriation. The requirements are you either have to have a presidential declaration similar to the Stafford Act, or the governor can actually declare an emergency for a smaller event that our division administrator would concur in. And the ER funds are limited to federal aid routes. I don't know assume if anybody's familiar with functional class, local roads are not eligible in minor rural collectors. The intent of the ER program is very self-centered. It is to restore your facility to pre-disaster conditions. So the assumption is you're going to go to replacement in kind. You can repair to current design standards if you're meeting within the footprint. I just found out about a week ago, I can speak about this. I was part of a rulemaking to update some of the regs about 7 years ago that I don't know, it got put on the back burner. The intent of that statement is 3 more inches of ABC, 1.5 inches of asphalt, curvature. It is not intended to meet current economic development.
it's specific to the highway and its current function. Economic hardship is not necessarily an eligibility factor for a route. It's either damaged in the storm or it's not. There are a series of OIG reports that have really reined in the program. And we never really had the problem in North Carolina. They're pretty diligent as a state DOT, but the feeling was it was getting out of control, and so they reined it back in. There's a lot of oversight that restricts things now. What is the program? It's to repair, reconstruct highways, roads, or trails that suffered serious damage as a result of natural disaster or wide area, catastrophic failure from any external cause. I'm going to back up to the trails. The trail has to be integral to the highway facility. A trail in and of itself is not eligible unless it's part of the federal aid system, and that's very rare that it's not running concurrent with the highway. I know of a few cases in Alaska and Colorado, but I'm not sure we have any here in North Carolina. This is kind of the process that goes through. I pulled out a list of some of the eligible items. Most of it is items that are on the footprint of the highway, and most of them are integral to the operation. Since 2014, debris in a Stafford Act event is handled actually by FEMA. We used to make a distinction between on system and off system. They removed that. There are pluses and minuses of that. We actually reimburse at a higher rate and probably have probably more concerned about the initial just getting rid of it, whereas FEMA has a stage process and they reimburse at a lower rate, but you don't have to deal with two entities. So something that comes up quite a bit are features resulting from the NEPA process. And I've talked to our environmental folks. I've never really gotten a clear answer on that. There are times when we're required to, if we're taking land, we're required to do something here, but typically we're going to stay inside the highway right away. However, there is a provision that says we can work outside the right of way. That's pretty specific. It's considering things like debris that are endangering a structure, slopes that actually leave our right of way that are in danger of coming down. I-40 Gorge is a perfect example in 2009 and 10, if anyone remembers the rock slide. Most of the work we did was outside our right of way, but we had to do that to stabilize it to get the road reopened. Does that make sense? I usually get a lot of questions on that one. If you're rebuilding current design standards, I don't know how to print it. If you do a protective feature that's not necessary, it's considered a betterment. So an improvement is considered a betterment until you prove it's not. One example is with current hydraulic modeling, we can much more accurately size pipes. So if you have a pipe that's washed out, make up a number 12 inches, and you come back, initially you would think you have to put back a 12-inch pipe, but if you can show that the modeling and the people who speak a language we don't understand in hydraulics say it needs to be 36 inches, that's meeting the current standard, and therefore it's not a betterment. But an example of a betterment would be, well, actually, because this has come up internally, complete streets. You may have a long-range plan that you want a complete street along a corridor, but if it didn't exist prior to, it's considered a betterment. And the way you justify a betterment is either an engineering standard or not an engineering standard, a cost saving, but the cost saving is specific to the ER program. So it doesn't consider user delays, economic development, long-term maintenance. It's strictly, you're showing that it's going to save the ER program potentially money. And that's why things like geotechnical structures or culverts are fairly easy, because once you have the stamp, you're sizing it to what is needed. There we go. Went over all that. One thing about a betterment, there are a few things that are specifically called out, such as going from a culvert to a bridge. I don't know why it is, but it's in the law, and you have to have prior approval. If you proceed with a betterment and haven't talked to anybody at your local federal highway office, there's almost nothing I can do. And that comes from a series of events in the mid-80s that we won't go into, but they're strict, they're serious. The auditors, that's the one thing they look for. So, okay, there we go. Cost breakdown, replacement in kind versus betterment. Sometimes actually, if it's not approved ER funds, here's the caveat, you can supplement with funds. So if you want to do a pedestrian walkway in addition to the bridge that wasn't there before, you can supplement that with other funds, safety, rec trails, something to be eligible for the activity. It's actually not that uncommon. Size of the storm, I doubt there's going to be much of that, just because it's going to take about everything we can spare to meet the match, but it is a possibility. If a local municipality has funds, and granite curb and gutter is very important, that community, they can supplement they could, if they can fit into the scope, supplement the funds on that project to pay for that over and above what was there. But that is something you have to work closely with your division office over. When you're doing a federal aid project, it's like anything else. We have a lot of rules that, if you keep in mind, the federal aid program was designed to build the interstate and the highway system. As you get further down, some of them don't, it's hard to understand why they're there, but they're there because it's there for the overall program, not specific to your project. There's two categories of repairs with ER. There are emergency repairs and permanent repairs. An emergency repair is defined by law, and it can get you in trouble because what you consider necessarily an emergency isn't necessarily an emergency under the law. It's three categories. It's restore essential traffic, and that's not full service. It's emergency services and general access. Protect the remaining facilities and preventing further damage. It's very specific. However, an advantage is the emergency repair can be reimbursed up to 100%. I'm going to say this up front. Am I being recorded?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll say this anyway. The ER program doesn't always make sense until you look at it on a national scale. An emergency repair can be reimbursed at 100% if it's temporary. If it's permanently incorporated into the project, which you're encouraged to do, it's done at the pro rata share. And globally, the reason for that is they don't want you preventing access or letting something further fail because you're worried about cost. Like there are times when we almost lost a bridge several years ago due to scour, and it was Katie bar the door, do everything we can to get it going. And most of what we did ended up coming out at the end of the project, but we kept an interstate facility from failing. So that's kind of the intent there, but it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't always make sense until you take that step back. One nice thing about emergency repairs, there's a series of letters that go back and forth when a storm starts. DOT can proceed with emergency repairs so long as they can clearly document why it was an emergency. Basically from the start of the storm. There's pretty specific language in there that says, go ahead, you've got it, go. For permanent repairs, you're supposed to have prior approval. There's ways to do that after the fact, but that's an exception, not a rule. We work pretty closely, I think, with DOT, so it typically isn't an issue. And I think the really big projects they've drugged me out on. So I'm sorry, wrong word. They've had me out on. So I have an idea what's going on and we can concur. Yeah, they're eligible to go. It's a matter of making sure we keep the documentation. And most of what we do for ER is for 5 years after the fact. When you're in the role of it, it's real easy to get going. 5 years from now, somebody's going to come in. Nobody's going to remember how bad it was. All they're going to want to know is why we did it, what we did, and why we did it. And I've survived a few of those now. They're not always pleasant, but so long as you keep up and document everything, you're good. Here you go. We have an ER manual. It hasn't been updated since 2013. If you want to do anything to help the program, tell the powers that be they need to get out of the lawyer's office. I don't know why it's taken so long, but it has been under review continuously, and it's been rewritten twice since 2013. So I don't know what the holdup is, but there we go. You just do a Google search, FHWA Emergency Relief Manual, version 2013. It goes through all this. We have a website. It periodically gets updated. Things like the FAST Act. Right now we're on bill, actually, that's why I have this webpage up. Because somebody told me to be prepared to talk about this. I don't know much. I'm not a planner. I don't know much about complete streets. So one thing, Bill asked Federal Highways to update the ER manual, which is still stuck somewhere, to encourage the use of complete street design principles in consideration of access for moderate and low-income families impacted by declared disaster. However, if you go in and read the notes on it, the assumption is that's paid for by some other funding source. So people read that and say, oh, let's do this. Well, it is, but what is the funding source to do that? It's similar to resiliency. It's a really big, at least for federal highways, it's a big buzzword now. But the assumption is unless you're showing a savings, and it's a savings to the ER program to protect facility in future, resiliency is assumed to be paid for from somewhere else. Get back. Anyway, we have a whole website, a whole team for emergency relief. Lots of guidance and memos. And that's all I have. So I was told to expect questions, so.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Will.
I hope I covered what you wanted. I tried to take what you told me that people want to hear, so.
Absolutely, that was spot on. Perfect. Any questions?
I need to adjourn the RPO meeting. Okay. We don't vote on that, right?
No, we're not.
Okay, so RPO is your
Tax management. We're good. Next is the subcommittee update.
Yeah, so, for the MPO, we continue to have our subcommittees meet. We had a prioritization meeting earlier this month as well as 53 subrecipients. Just a couple things to highlight. Well, first I'll highlight that this is the first time we've had food at one of our meetings in more than 9 years. And the first time we've had food without getting in trouble with federal highways in more than 10 years. So please help yourselves. We're not using federal funds, so it's all good.
Do that first.
Yes, do that. Make sure you heard that. Go ahead, Susan.
What am I supposed to do? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, we have food here, but there's no federal funds going to purchase it. That's what we wanted to make you aware of. Anyway.
Right, just really quick. Computers. There we go. Sorry. So a couple of things we wanted to highlight, and just to note, so we have our 25-year plan going on, our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We're calling Elevate 2050. And so that is continuing on. Trust me, it was a surreal moment for me. I think I was handing out water and MREs to folks and trying to get in touch with our consultants to delay on some of the public engagement that had been planned for October. It is weird to shift from immediate needs to a 25-year plan. To me, I do think though that, first of all, it's still required. It's a federal requirement for federal funds to flow into our region for transportation. But secondly, I do think for a region, we need something like this right now. We need to look forward to a future where like the basic immediate needs are
Tristan, half of this room will be dead in 25 years.
There's different, time frames. But anyway, just to note, our MCP is still going. We have a public engagement pop-up event, scheduled for the next 2 weeks. The first was in Weaverville that was held last night. We'll be at the Asheville Holiday Jamboree, this Saturday. We have a public meeting in Waynesville at their town hall on December 4th. And we'll be at the Hendersonville Old Fashioned Christmas, December 6th, as well as having an online public survey. Also to note, our Safe Streets plan for the region is moving forward. Our consultants have developed or drafted a crash risk data set that is very, very important. Crashes fluctuate. Our most dangerous roads don't always have the most crashes, and our safest roads don't always have no crashes. So looking at crash risk factors is something that us can provide some really important data to give us a better idea of where we really need to focus safety improvements. But that's another where public input was initially planned, I believe for the weekend after the storm. And so that's been moved to early 2025. The other thing that I'll go into a little bit of detail since it came up with Daniel is our 2050 socioeconomic study. So to note, there is a travel demand model that covers the 5-county region, the MPO and the RPO region. And it's there to project where are our future traffic needs going to be emerging. And it uses projections of where population growth will happen, employment growth will happen. And that essentially spits out where we're expected to see more transportation demand, more congestion, things like that. So to note, that is a very important study, as that's very much related to the MCP. We have 4 scenarios that will be considered later on by this board. So we wanted to give you guys a heads up. The MPO board is required to pass what's called a preferred growth scenario. That is an important thing with legal standing. That is basically, we anticipate and we would prefer it if our region grows this way. And so, Daniel talks about how the model plays into traffic forecasts. And we've seen how changes to our land use projection can have real direct impacts on those traffic forecasts. The one that I like to point out is for the I-26 connector. For those of you who are, it's not even relative, this was a long debate. There was a long debate over whether to have 6 or 8 lanes with I-26, and it was kind of on the fence between the two. With the latest way the model was updated, per the record of decision, that's what moved it to a 6-lane cross-section through West Asheville instead of the 8-lane cross-section. That helped reduce impacts and hopefully help reduce costs. But that just to point out, that study has real direct impacts on some of the work that NCDOT does, and helps us see where we need to focus some of our future efforts. So those are some of the big things that we are working on at the MPO, and continuing to move that forward. Legislative, nothing direct, but I think a lot of folks have heard that there's expected to be a series of disaster relief bills. I do know that NCDOT has made some recommendations, requests for additional funding. Per the updates we've heard from NCDOT and Federal Highways, there's a lot of funding from the federal level that's able to be used, but a lot of it requires state match, or will require state match. I think we've already heard that that number is still moving. I expect it to move more. And, so what that number is going to be, that's required of the state in order to rebuild our transportation network, and where that money is going to come from, I think those are two big questions, and what the General Assembly, and the governor do or don't do, I think will be pretty pivotal, in terms of, figuring that out.
So, when Wanda had said that our possible match was 1.7, I didn't hear if it was million or billion, so now I'm thinking,
That was a big,
I thought it was. I was not hoping that, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, I think I'll turn it over to Autumn for the approval of the agenda for the TCC. Correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Autumn, still with us? Yes.
yeah. So for the folks that are on here from TCC, we need to do a quick approval of the agenda and consent agenda, which included the September minutes. If anyone, unless there's any changes, does anyone want to make a motion to approve those?
This is Vicky, so moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Steve Williams.
I'll let Tristan decide if he wants Jen or Steve. How about that?
Oh, boy.
And if someone on staff wouldn't mind taking us through roll call.
All right, Bill Marquardt. Ray Buckner. Black Mountain, Jessica Trotman.
Aye.
Buncombe County, William Hawk. Approved. Buncombe Transit, Chloe Donovan.
Approved.
TPD, Daniel Sellers. Approved. Canton, Byron Pickoff. Aye. Approved. Fletcher, Eric Rufo.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Approved.
Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe.
Approved.
Apple Country Public Transit, Jana Biakoli.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Matthew Manley.
Approved.
Maggie Valley, Sam Cullen.
Aye.
Mars Hill, Nathan Bennett. Mills River, Michael Malachek.
Approve.
Waynesville, Elizabeth Heath. Woodson, Ricky Hurley. NCDOT 13, Hannah Smith.
Approved.
NCDOT Division 14, Steve Williams. Approved. Thank you very much.
Okay. I have it. I'd like to. Next, we'll move to the MPO, approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Is there any changes or someone wants to take a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Now, your turn.
Asheville, Kimroni.
Aye.
Black Mountain, Archie Portiller.
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck Grady. Flat Rock, Ann Coletta.
Aye.
Booker, Jim Player.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Ensley.
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers. Henderson County, Bill Lastly.
Aye.
Henderson County, Rebecca McCall.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wechsel.
Aye.
Mills River, Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Montree, Tom Whitmer.
Aye.
Rural Transit, David White.
Aye.
Weaverville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell. Aye. And Woodson, Jim McAllister. The ayes have it.
Perfect, thank you. Next, we'll move on to business, the Protect Planning Grant application.
Yeah, so, one of the relatively new federal highways or programs from USDOT is the Protect program, that focuses on the resiliency of the transportation network. There's two parts to the Protect program, planning and implementation. With planning, that is, what we are, planning to pursue. There's a 0% local match, and what we would be going after would be a resiliency improvement plan for the 5-county area, including the MPO and the RPO. And so, just to note, we talked a little bit about this earlier, and it's come up for years, is that as of right now, we don't really have a list of priorities when it comes to resiliency. We have data that helps show where are the floodplains, where are the floodways, where have we historically had landslides, but combining that with kind of transportation liabilities is something we don't currently have. And so something that we would like to pursue is that regional resiliency improvement plan. Again, for the 5-county area, because to note, I-40 through the gorge is not part of the MPO, but Haywood County folks, I mean, it's not just you guys, but Haywood County did a study the last time I-40 was closed for a year, and businesses had revenue losses of 25 to 70%. So the immediate impacts there are enormous. Regionally, I think I can't be the only one that's seen concerns and complaints about I-240 and 26. Where did all this traffic come from? We're missing one of the key interstate linkages for our region, but also for our country. Our primary freight movement takes trucks through the Pigeon River Gorge, and that is a key connection between the Midwest and the ports of Savannah and Charleston. So we thought making it a 5-county plan would be especially important for us, and could help dig more into the data and potentially provide us a tool to help us really hone in on what are our key priorities if we want to build a more resilient transportation network, and where do we really need to focus some of our future investments. So for today, we're looking for approval of a letter of support from the TCC and board in order for staff to move forward with the grant application.
Did you looking for the TCC and one, so all
Yes.
You're up.
Okay, for TCC staff, are there any questions about the grant application? And hearing no questions, does anyone want to make a motion to recommend applying for the grant?
This is William, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Sam Cullen, I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, roll call once again.
All right. Fillmore Forest, Carrie Buckner.
Aye.
Black Mountain. Black Mountain, Jessica Trotman.
Aye.
Welcome County, William High.
Approved.
Welcome Transit, Chloe Donahue.
Approved.
TCD, Doug Daniel Sellers.
Approved.
Canton, Brian Hickok.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Fletcher, Eric Russo.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Approve.
Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe.
Aye.
Apple Country Public Transit, Jana Bianculli.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Matthew Manley.
Approve.
Maggie Valley, Sam Cullen.
Aye.
Mars Hill, Nathan Bennett. Mills River, Michael Malachek.
Approve.
Woodson, Ricky Hurley. And CDOT Division 13, Hannah Smith.
Aye.
And CDOT Division 14, Steve Williams.
Aye.
All right, yeah, I have.
Perfect. Moving to the MPO, do we have any other discussion? Anyone want to make
We'll make a motion, Shannon Gantz.
And a second?
I'll second.
Perfect.
Jim Clay.
Jim, do you have a question?
I do. Maybe I missed something in this, but having heard from our FWHA representative earlier on this meeting, are we applying for evacuation route grant funding?
I believe that's part of the consideration within a resiliency plan, but I mean, we would be applying for protect grant planning funds. So this would be separate from a lot of the funds being utilized right now for emergency repairs.
Okay, because I've been doing a lot of outreach beyond my jurisdiction, and I hear a consensus, especially by folks who had to evacuate, that evacuation routes are a desire in our Western North Carolina community.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, I think with a lot of resiliency plans, one of the first steps is identifying those critical corridors to maintain flow, either for evacuation and or getting supplies into the region. So, you know, the DOT maintains its strategic highway corridors, but I think we would definitely set up kind of critical transportation corridors as one of the first steps.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that. The way the question was phrased about evacuation routes, there are federally designated evacuation routes but they're only for hurricanes and nuclear disasters. So anything in our region would be something we would designate, not a federal evacuation route. It was a hurricane, but I just checked how far the federally designated routes come into the state, and they pretty much evacuate everybody from the coast to I-95 and then let them disperse.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if all interstates in the state were designated.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure if we were eligible for full reimbursement, that we were taking full advantage. And I know staff work really hard to do that anyway. Just making sure I did my due diligence.
Thank you so much, Kim. We had a first, second, and now roll call. And it's Kim, actually.
Asheville Kimbroni.
Aye.
Black Mountain Archie Portiller.
Aye.
Flat Rock Ancoletta.
Aye.
Fletcher Jim Blair.
Aye.
Haywood County Kevin Hensley.
Aye.
Haywood County Brandon Rogers. Henderson County Bill Lapsley.
Aye.
Henderson County Rebecca McCall.
Aye.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Laurel Park George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Mills River Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Montree Tom Widmer.
Aye.
Rural Transit David White.
Aye.
Waynesville Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville Catherine Cordell. Aye. And Woodson Jim McAllister.
Yes.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for sticking with us. I know it's a tough one, having a meeting is tough as well. So I want to move for, no, it's fantastic. Thank you for sticking in. We have a couple more items. Next is the P7 Division Needs Local Input Point Assignment.
Yes, and I'll try to go through this relatively quickly. because I think we've been through this before. No one can say we didn't coordinate. So, just as a reminder, the prioritization process that we're talking about, that is the process to help determine what transportation projects should be funded next. There's a number of steps involved, and we are getting towards the end. So after determining what division needs projects get local input points, then we will get the results of that process through the draft tip and stip, which will then be expected to be approved by this board as well as the Board of Transportation. In general, how this system works is funding is broken up into 3 different tiers: statewide, regional, and division. Today we're focusing on division needs. So that is primarily for projects on our secondary routes, standalone bike ped projects, transit capital projects, and anything from the other tiers that we want to cascade. Projects compete within each division. So Division 13, if you have a project in this tier, it competes with every project in Division 13. Same thing with Division 14. And you know, the whole point of this exercise is to try to get projects funded. A higher score means it's more likely to be funded. And where we put our local input points helps projects to get a higher score. So 25% of the overall project score is determined by whether or not the MPO puts points on the project. So just a quick example, we have a project that scores a 20 based on the quantitative score. We put points on it, that boosts it by 25. The division puts points on it, that boosts it by another 25. Your project scores a 70. If we don't like the project, then we don't have to put points on it, and then it scores worse, it would score a 45. But as I said, the whole point of this exercise is to try to get projects funded, and so to go over how much funding is available, the updated projections, it's not pretty. Division 13, we have a projected negative $144 million available. Division 14, negative $35 million available.
The new update, we're not forced anymore.
Say that again?
I guess with the new update, we're not forced anymore.
There we go. I'm ready to run through a brick wall now. So with negative funding available, without additional funding being thrown into the mix, our expectations of projects being funded is very, very minimal. In reality, what we're doing is we are stating the MPO's priorities and having them there in the case that additional funding does become available, and we have an updated list of priorities that could be considered if that happens.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Is there any possibility that some of the projects we've identified are going to fall under the repair due to damage?
I don't believe so. There was one project that we thought might fall into that, and it would be a betterment. I believe that's the US 70 sidewalks, but my understanding is that the repair, or the needed repairs are not significant enough to go through that process. And correct me.
Actually, didn't the Swannoa River, wasn't the Swannoa River Road on that initial thing we worked on for the last 6 months?
So Swannoa River Road is currently in the tip and skip. And it's currently in there from Biltmore Avenue to South Tunnel Road. And so that is an area where I think we'll probably have more discussions. But no, projects that are already in the tip and skip aren't part of the prioritization process. We're trying to get them into the but yeah, I mean, that is one we've gotten a lot of questions on.
Okay.
Tristan, one sentiment I'm hearing across the community and even here today
is about, building back better and being more resilient. Any opportunities for resiliency modifications to these projects?
This is Kim Rooney of Asheville. Second that.
Heard that.
Hannah, see if you guys want to take a step.
Well, I still think that was just covered partially by the FHWA update from Will Beatty about resiliency can be added to a project, but it involves a benefit cost analysis to show that there will be future savings to the emergency relief program. If we don't prove that, it's considered a betterment, which has to be paid for with non-federal money. And that's why a lot of our repairs end up being in kind, putting back what was there before or bringing up to current standards. Even just to do that is the $5 billion. If we start talking about armoring our whole network, we're well triple that. So I think, as I mentioned in my presentation, we'll be talking about that case by case, probably for Swananoa River Road design when that resumes. But current repairs for Swananoa River Road will not include any resiliency measures, and then most of the other ones we're doing will not either. Do you have anything to?
No, that sums it up.
So that would be for the future improvements that's already been funded. Let's take like 191, for instance, from Mills River towards Stony Mountain Road. There was
Crosses the
how many
finish
errors?
line.
There was how many errors? Yeah, we was trapped like on an island, probably a 30 square mile island with just one police and a few. If we could raise 191 just 2 or 3 feet, we've got one access out of there at that point. Who would we talk to about having someone look at that before that project started in the near future?
So you can ask the division about that, and just with the awareness that would be a complete redesign, more right-of-way acquisition. It's not, you can't just raise the road 3 feet, you know that. So you'd be talking about a significant delay in the let for that project. And, of course, always a concern in the current financial situation that the project, something could happen. This is kind of a tricky situation.
Okay.
There are several roads in Henderson County, though, that I will say, at one point, every road into the city of Hendersonville was flooded. We could not get emergency management crews into the city or out of the city for about 18 hours. Every road was flooded into the city. And there are a couple of those roads specifically that are actually in planning now, so.
I-26 was flooded.
I-26 was flooded. Yeah.
So. Any other questions?
Okay. Back to prioritization, just a reminder with the negative funding balances, we went through that with the project rankings that came through, I believe, back in August to our TCC and board. So those rankings are likely to play a big role in terms of how DOT works to balance their budget. That is a gentle reminder of something I think we'll likely be talking about quite a bit in future meetings. In terms of our general takeaways from, if you all remember having meetings with us back in September, a lot of the emphasis from our local coordination was on standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects. And to note, those projects scored the best in terms of its quantitative score for any project in our region. Meaning a lot of those were if there was funding, they'd be our best chances of pulling down some funds. One thing that we've brought up at the statewide level, just to note a concern, is that highway projects, especially modernization projects, really did not score well this round. And to me, part of that goes to the reliance on shoulder width and lane width data. But we can save that conversation for another day. But just to note, they did not score particularly well with a couple of exceptions, notably Fanning Bridge Road in Henderson and a little bit of Buncombe. And we saw more interest in transit projects, and a couple projects scored relatively well. This is a chart I made because I'm a nerd. Basically, projects further to the right, they scored better in the quantitative score. Projects further up scored better based on the MPO score. Just to go through the projects we're planning on putting points on in Buncombe County, we have the Reed Creek Greenway connector that connects the Reed Creek Greenway into downtown Asheville. The Tunnel Road Sidewalks project in East Asheville, that was one of the top priorities in Asheville's Close the Gap plan. Patton Avenue sidewalks, another high priority from the Close the Gap plan. The Bent Creek Greenway, that's a Buncombe County project that extends the French Broad River Greenway. US 70 sidewalks, that's in Swannanoa. That's a high priority for the sidewalks for Swannanoa group. And also the Merriman Avenue sidewalks in Weaverville. Those were the priority projects from Buncombe. Just to note, the prioritization subcommittee also recommended adding North Louisiana Avenue modernization, which is a project that used to be funded, but no longer is. Haywood priority projects, there were two. The first was purchasing transit expansion vehicles for Haywood Transit. That was the highest scoring project at the division used here for Haywood County. The second is the 1923 multi-use path that we've talked about quite a bit that would connect Chestnut Mountain Park into downtown Canton. Henderson County priorities, there were three. The first is Church and King pedestrian improvements. There's a number of gaps in the pedestrian network in downtown Hendersonville. This project would work to fill those gaps and provide improved crossings. The second is the Above the Mud Greenway connection. That's a planned greenway between the Augusta Trail and the Oklahoma Greenway. And the third would be Fanning Bridge Road intersection improvements, which has been a priority corridor for Fletcher for, I don't know how many rounds at this point, a lot of rounds.
Long time.
This round, we changed it to intersection improvements, and it scored a lot better than it had previously. One other Henderson priority that the prioritization subcommittee recommended, and as Commissioner McCall would be happy, is the Signal Hill Berkeley Thompson Street modernization project. That's a high growth area that also serves as basically the route that connects US 64 to US 25 without going through downtown. And that's been a priority for a number of rounds as well. And then Madison County, the one priority project in Mars Hill is the extension of their greenway, the Dr. Duck Greenway, and that would bring it to Bailey Mountain Park and back down into Mars Hill campus. Just to note, there was recently there is a study that is close to completion. So we are expecting to get more information on that project for future rounds. But those are the projects that we are planning on putting local input on. Are there any questions or comments? We are looking for final approval. Yes,
Divisions, I think it was 6 and 7, they looked like they had surplus numbers, is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
Where are they?
Do they want to share? Well, I was just wondering if they, is that money, if they're that far over, is that money being ever evaluated to be moved to other?
Yeah, more like Burlington right now.
I think overall it's what we're unfortunately total negative in our state.
No, it's over $1 billion. So, I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, 150 million
Needs
is
to go
still
somewhere.
150 million.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this has come up in some discussions with the prioritization work group, but, I mean, for the most part, it's, you know, they get the, same allotment as other divisions. I mean, really what is being shown is that they don't have as much allocated, so for a positive balance, they might get, a project, a couple of projects in this round, but those would be the only two divisions, that might.
It also means that, it also potentially means that they've lost more projects. You know, we lose enough projects to keep our balance less negative. They could have lost in the 2020 reprogramming that we did and then the releasement of the current STIP. It could be that they lost enough projects out of the program to then have a balance for future stuff. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're underspending, do what?
They're just kind of a huge outlier though, like how, I
I'd
guess.
like to point out too, that Division 14 went from 55 million in the good
Positive.
to minus 35 since
Yeah.
May.
So they probably don't have any money either, is your point?
It very well could be.
It's only a snapshot in time, so that's only good for September 18th, the
Yes.
date it was captured.
And that's not much money when it comes to transportation. I mean, strange to say, but it's not.
Tristan,
Yeah?
Tristan, this is Ann Claude with Flat Rock. I just wanted to note one thing. This isn't one of the projects that you listed because this is something that falls under the heading in the documentation in the agenda that you sent us, other highway projects considered but not prioritized. But since we are giving approval, I'm assuming on the document as it was in our agenda packet, I just wanted to note that the Canoga Road project on the document shows that the southern end is Little River Road, but a while ago we determined that the southern end would be Price Road so that the project would remain out of the historic district. And I just wanted to note that what's in the agenda packet ends it at Little River Road and it should be Price Road.
That's a great point. We'll follow up with the spot unit, again, on that one, make sure.
Thank you. It's just when things are in writing, they tend to take on a life of their own, so. Thank you.
But yeah, to Steve's point, they might be a few cost estimate updates away from a negative balance.
The next move is,
we are looking for approval from the TCC, and then the board of, our local and, our projects to receive local assistance.
Olive, you're up.
Okay, does anyone on TCC want to make a motion to approve with the addendum?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, last time we have to do roll call. Maybe, nope, I lied. It's not the last time.
All bills up for nothing. All right. Billboard Porter, Terry Buckner. Black Mountain, Jessica Trotman.
Aye.
Buncombe County, William High. Buncombe Transit, Chloe Donovan.
Approved.
TCE, Daniel Sellers.
Approved.
Canton, Byron Hickok.
Aye.
Flat Rock, or excuse me, Fletcher, Eric Rufa.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Approve.
Anderson County, Autumn Ratcliffe.
Aye.
Buffalo Country Public Transit, Gianna Fianculli.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Matthew Manley.
Approved.
Maggie Valley, Sam Cullen.
Aye.
Morrisville, Nathan Bennett. Mills River, Michael Malachek.
Approve.
And CDOT Division 13, Hannah Smith.
Aye.
from CDOT Division 14, Steve Williams.
Approved.
Yeah, I have it.
Yes.
Who seconded that?
That was me, Mike Malachek from Mills River.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to the MPO. Do I have anyone that wants to make a motion to approve? So moved. Thank you. Kevin, please. First, second. I'll second. Kim Claire.
Asheville, Kim Rooney.
Aye.
Black Mountain, Archie Portillo.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Ann Coletta.
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Player.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers. Henderson County, Bill Lapsley.
Aye.
Henderson County, Rebecca McCall. Aye. Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Mills River, Shannon Don.
Aye.
Montreat, Tom Widmer.
Aye.
Rural Transit, David White.
Aye.
Gainesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell. Aye. And Woodson, Jim McAllister.
Approved.
Guys have it.
Thank you so much. Next, I'll turn it over to Tristan.
Okay, next up, every 2 years, we are required to elect TCC and board leadership. So first up, we've got the TCC. So per the bylaws, chair and vice chair are eligible to serve up to 2 terms of 2 years per term. And so our current chair, Autumn, has now served 2 terms as chair. Going back, Autumn has been on MPO leadership for 8 years. Autumn, we cannot thank you enough. That's putting it lightly. Autumn, with your guidance has been incredible the entire time that I've been here. Our vice chair, William Hyde, has served 2 terms as vice chair. So William is eligible to serve as chair. I think I saw him campaigning around North Asheville earlier today. But we do need to elect a new TCC chair and a new vice chair with terms beginning in January.
There's Peach.
I'm happy for any of the rest of you to do it, and we'll gladly step in should that be what people like.
The usual joke we make every 2 years is the pay is just as terrible, whether you're chair, vice chair, or not.
But now there's food.
But now there's food.
Just my knowledge.
Yeah.
It's gonna be that same food all year.
This is
is
Jana
odd.
Bianculli.
Oh, sorry.
This is Jana. I nominate William Hyde for TCC chair.
Thank you, Jana.
And this is Autumn. I'll second.
Very kind. Thank you, Kevin. But who will be our vice chair?
Can we do both and then one roll call?
That would be nice. But when it comes to the TCC,
That's allowed.
that's allowed. So is anyone from the TCC interested in serving as vice chair?
Or we're gonna ask and I'll just nominate someone and vote?
We can do that.
Somebody that isn't here.
I was gonna say Jan. I was gonna nominate Jana Bianculli for vice chair.
I'll second that.
That's a good pick. I don't have a voice in this, but it's.
Yeah, do you accept?
I don't object. That's fine.
It's not the same thing, but we'll take it.
Anna, you wanna make a motion?
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the new TCC chair and vice chair. William High and Jennifer Bianco.
I'll second that.
All right, moving on to roll call vote. Black Mountain, Jessica Trotman.
Aye.
Buncombe County, William High.
Reluctantly approved.
Buncombe Transit, Chloe Donahue.
Approve.
TBD, Daniel Sellers.
Enthusiastically approve.
Canton, Brian Hickok. Fletcher, Eric Rufa.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Approve.
Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe.
Aye.
Apple Country Public Transit, Jana Bianculli.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Matthew Manley.
Approve.
Maggie Valley, Sam Cullen.
Aye.
Morrisville, Nathan Bennett. Mills River, Michael Malachek.
Approve.
NCDOT Division 13, Hannah Smith.
Aye.
NCDOT Division 14, Steve Williams.
Aye.
Got it,
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you, Anthony.
Next is the MPO.
Okay, so for board leadership, Anthony Sutton and Jennifer Hensley have served one term as chair and vice chair. So they are eligible to serve another term, and but we need to take an official vote to have leadership with terms starting January 2025.
Need a motion? I'll move. We reelect this.
This is Kim. I'll second that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now we have to do a roll call.
Asheville Kimroni.
Aye.
Black Mountain Archie Portiller.
Aye.
Hot Rock Dan Coletta.
Aye.
Fletcher Jim Player.
Aye.
Henderson County Bill Lapsley.
Aye.
Henderson County Rebecca McCall. Aye. Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Laurel Park George Banta.
Aye.
Mills River Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Montreat Tom Widmer. Rural Transit David White.
Aye.
Waynesville Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Leverville Catherine Cordell. Aye. And Woodfin Jim McAllister.
I am grateful to them and say aye.
Thank you so much.
The ayes have it.
Thank you, guys.
And I do want to take, now that the election is over, just to know, Anthony and Jen have been incredible. It's not every day that MPO projects with meetings in Raleigh at 9 a.m. And additional phone calls with all kinds of staff and other elected officials that folks, I mean, they haven't just agreed, they have jumped on it and pursued in the interest of our region. So thank you guys for all the work you've done for staff as well as for the MPO.
I feel very fortunate to have Jennifer on my team, because we tag team.
We do well.
Really well. Thank you. Next, any announcements, news, special updates? No? Topics for next meeting?
Next meeting, we'll have some updates on some of those big planning efforts we've been talking about, especially the Safe Streets for All plan. So getting into that and where that plan is. We'll also be talking about safety performance targets. So it's that time of year. It's that time for holidays and safety performance targets. So we
Got Brian Murphy coming in.
We'll plan on having a presentation on that. And we anticipate potentially the draft SIP coming out, but we will we will be eagerly awaiting.
Any public comment? With that, we will adjourn. Everyone that comes in, and send all future suggestions to me. Thank you, folks.